continue to embrace truth, justice, peace, and a path to prosperity, I believe that America's best days can still be ahead, and I want to lead us forward. Join me now in the Reid Revolution.
You would think that I could make the 10 o'clock start after all those years doing a show at 5:30 in the morning and 6 o'clock in the morning. But, it's like everything else in life. You kind of adjust to the new schedule, and then you complain about the new schedule. But 10 o'clock is a very civilized time to begin a broadcast, I think. Certainly compared to getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning. Good morning to you. It's Wednesday morning, and it's the 7th day of January, 2026. And you remember you used to worry for the first 10 days of the new year that you'd write the checks all wrong. You'd put the previous year as you filled out checks. And an older person brought this up to me yesterday, and I thought, oh my gosh, you still use checks? I swear I've got a thousand boxes of junk that I got to go through around here. I don't think I have a check of any kind. Does anybody use paper checks anymore? I don't know. These are the kinds of things, they're absolutely irrelevant. They're completely minuscule, but they're kind of markers of what generation you're in. And I guess I'm on the tail end of the generation that would worry about something like that. If I were to say that to Alonzo, who is significantly younger than I am, he'd probably, I think I mentioned this on the radio before I left at WRVA. I was shocked that Alonzo said he had never put a stamp on an envelope and put a letter in the mail. Can you believe that? Never put a stamp on it. Everything was digital his entire life. And is that possible that somebody in their 30s has never mailed a letter? And I said, surely you mailed a bill. No, everything he's ever paid has been digital. That's kind of stunning to me. He goes and gets the mail filled with bills and advertisements and magazines and things. But there are a couple of things that are really delineating the generational issues here. And one of them, to get to the serious stuff today, is I think I'm on the tail end of the generation that actually paid attention to issues and tried to deal with them seriously instead of just theatrics. Now, granted, I wasn't alive in the 60s, so I don't want to give myself too much credit, because the 60s was all about public protest and, smoking weed, sitting in your own manure in the mud, singing songs as if that's going to save the world from the violent people who want to kill everybody. And there are those people who hate whatever group. Pick one of the groups that's hated. I'm in one of the groups that's hated. You wonder why I am doing what I'm doing. It's because I know I'm in a minority group that everybody hates. So to hell with me just giving up and assuming that everything's going to be okay. I can't let that happen, because I've lived through it. I know what it's like to have people out to get you. And they may not say it to your face directly, but they'll say it behind your back. And then the next thing you know, if you walk away and you don't participate in the process and you don't push back, you find yourself in a bind. But what I don't do is the theatrics. Or, at least if you're going to do theatrics, then you can combine the theatrics with real policy change and be actively engaged in that. One of the great things about the new generation of reporters who are out there on the street, these 20-something-year-olds who are influencers, is they really do. They walk down the street in New York or Washington or Miami, or just pick a city, and I really appreciate the little interviews with people who are holding signs and protesting, and they get asked a question that's one layer deep. Free Maduro. Okay, why do you want to free Maduro? Well, do you even know who he is? What's his first name? Where is he from? Do you know when he assumed power? Do you know that he lost the last election? Do you know that the world seemed to agree? Massive fraud. They don't know anything. and they're out there screaming and yelling and involved in the theatrics of all of this. And if you watch that, um, it's not that everybody has to pay attention to foreign policy or even domestic policy. If you don't want to be involved in it, okay. I mean, you're going to live under the rules that are made for you if that's your attitude. But you shouldn't go out and be protesting. You shouldn't be offering opinions about things that you know nothing about. It's one reason in all my years broadcasting, I didn't talk about the NFL. I didn't talk about college football. I don't give a damn. And I know it's something that everybody else feels very passionately about. Alonzo feels passionately about it. My dad used to feel passionately about it. My sister, I don't know that's the same level of passion, but she's tracking that stuff. There are plenty of people that's their passion. They can tell you 10 years of history about the NFL and college football. I couldn't care less. And I would immediately, if you did the man on the street interview with me, it wouldn't take you 30 seconds to expose that I don't care and I'm not interested and I'm not going to be tracking it. And so I just keep my mouth shut about it. I don't. So why, if I'm mature enough not to try to fake my way through that conversation that everybody else in the entire country is completely literate in, it's one of the few conversations when it comes up the table, I go, ooh, okay, I'll just sit here for a little while. I did a podcast during the campaign, and there were 5 or 6 of us at the table, and I had been introduced as a candidate. We talked politics for a little while, and then it shifted. I think it was the NFL. And man, I started to sweat because I thought, this is not why I came on this program, and I really don't need the problem. So if you don't know a damn thing about the issue, whatever it is, then maybe you should sit back and let other people talk about it. You might learn something. But that's not the discipline that we have today. It's all about getting the mob in the street. It's all about the theatrics. And the Democrats, I hate to say I want to give them credit, but from a communication standpoint, I give them credit. They're great at the theatrics. They're amazing at the theatrics. It enrages me. It makes me feel hostile in a certain way because it is all theatrics, and I think it's grounded in a bad bad assessment of what's going on. Remember when they took the knee in the Capitol Visitor Center and they wore their kente cloths, right? The African cloth or banner looks a little like a stole or a scarf. I know if you saw it, they took the knee, and there was, of course, the press runs all over themselves to make sure that they cover these things. And we as Republicans have to make sure that kind of thing backfires on them. So I want to show you the vigil the Democrats held yesterday. I deliberately didn't bring up January 6th yesterday, not that it's not a notable event in the last 10 years of American history. I don't suspect that it will be like the shot heard round the world, where another 100 years from now we'll be talking about it. I do, unfortunately, think it will be one of the landmarks that will be used if we wind up in a new civil war that will warrant some sort of conversation. But there's no way J6 is that significant in the grand scheme of American history. But of course, the Dems want it to be that way, and they act like it was just a massacre. They forget the video of the people walking through the door and walking by, staying inside the little stanchions and the, obeying the rules. Oh, the police say, oh, stay here on the tourist path. And they did. And they focus exclusively on something that did happen that was bad outside, where there was a lot of hostility. And so the Dems have this J6 vigil. You want to see this from yesterday? I thought it was pathetic. But it plays right into the hands of a lot of folks. There they are, the Senate Democrats. So I assume that's the senators and their staffers, right, who have all gathered with their fake candles on the steps of the Capitol to commemorate January 6th. Very solemn. I thought maybe it was a vigil for all the lost ballots, the missing ballots. That would make more sense, because the one thing that no one has wanted to aggressively address, certainly the Democrats have not, since January 6th is the issue that caused the conflict in the first place. What was that? Do you remember? Wasn't about Donald Trump necessarily, because when Donald Trump's gone, if we don't fix the system that we're working with and we don't regain some trust that this is fair and that this is legitimate and that the system's not rigged, we're going to see something worse than January 6th. I'm not encouraging that. I'm horrified that we're in this mess, but we're in this mess largely because Democrats and to a certain extent Republicans are terrified of dealing with the issue because they get beaten up on in media. I can't worry about that. We need to address election integrity because you can't have 50% of the population thinking, oh, the system is rigged. That's what they have in Venezuela. More than 50% of the population assumes that elections are rigged and that they don't count. And that's when you have a civil war. And that's when you do get a tyrant. And that's when you do get constant conflict on the ground in your own country. Now, I don't want that. I want us to not worry about things like that and have, prosperity, and for you to be focused instead of on complaining about politics, you're focused on building your business. I have a great idea. Let me go find some money from one of these evil banks, right? Maybe the bank will give me some money so that I can create business and be a millionaire. That's what I think we should be focused on. Why are the schools teaching things that don't prepare someone to be financially and personally successful in the society instead of indoctrinating the population? Thousands and thousands and thousands of kids graduating from high school thinking their country stinks, thinking that Virginia is the ground zero of slavery and hostility and what a horrible place to be. Instead of, we can talk about the history, but we're writing the future right now. So I don't know about you, as interested as I am in history, and I go to all these locations and historic homes and places where things happened in the past when I'm traveling. I love to do that. But I'm more interested in what I'm going to do right now for myself, for my family, hopefully in a grander sense for the community. And I don't think that the public schools, especially the government schools, are preparing that next generation. And they're not discussing the issues, which is why you got people who are out agitating in the streets and doing the theatrics of protest rather than doing the hard work. And it's why you have a population that is unprepared to live in the society that we live in now. Their expectation is that the government's going to pay for everything. Their expectation is that the government's going to fix it. The only thing I want the government to fix right about now is for us to have confidence that the people that we select to be in office have been fairly elected. That the voter rolls are clean. This is an opportunity for me. I mean, here, January 6th vigil. So it's been 5 years since that vigil. What have you done to clean up the voter rolls? That would be my question. We know here in Virginia that we had thousands of people who admitted that they're illegal. They're not here. They're not citizens. They're not here with papers. They admitted this, who have been on Virginia's voter rolls. And Governor Youngkin tried to, I think appropriately say, no, your name shouldn't be on the voter list. You shouldn't be able to go to the local firehouse or the local elementary school and vote in this election. And guess what? The Democrats took it to the Supreme Court. Thank God Glenn Youngkin won. But they took it to the Supreme Court to keep the illegals on the voter rolls. Now, is that supposed to inspire confidence from me as a candidate or from you as someone who is interested in politics? Why, if you won't stand up to clean the voter rolls so that it's just people who are 18 years and above who are actual citizens, I mean, right? I mean, that's the base. It's pretty basic. You don't have to own a $100,000 house. You don't have to pass a reading test. You don't have to pay a tax. All these things that did knock people out and prevent them from, you don't have to do that anymore. But we won't even enforce the most basic element of voter integrity. See, when I see that, I recognize you're not interested in fair elections. I'm not saying you're cheating, but you want to create a situation where somebody else can cheat. If you don't want to cheat yourself, you do want to create a situation where someone else can cheat, and you're assuming that it will be on your behalf. I don't want anybody to cheat for me. I don't want that. Win or lose, I want to go to bed knowing I won or I lost. And do you have that confidence now? Do you have complete confidence that everybody associated with this is being fair? You probably have that about your ATM card, right? When you go and get $20 out, $40, inflation, $100, Biden inflation, $100 out of the ATM, you probably have a general sense of confidence that that will be correctly debited from whatever the balance is in your bank account. You may be in New York City. You may be in Waynesboro. You may be in Miami, Florida. You may be in downtown. You have confidence that whatever ATM you're using, that it's going to be accurately debited. And yet, when it comes to voting, for some reason, we don't have that same concern. The future of the state of Virginia, the future of the United States, the future of your locality, you don't have that same confidence. Maybe you don't care. Probably if you live in a Democrat stronghold, you don't care. But I care, no matter where it is. I think we should tighten this stuff up so that there's no concern about cheating. And that is what caused January 6th, is that there's a large percentage of the population who I do not think is crazy, and I don't think they're hostile, and they're the people who actually wave the American flag and are patriotic. They're not the America haters. You're not going to find a lot of America haters in the Donald Trump crowd. You're not going to find people who despise Western civilization in the Republican Party. They're the ones who are concerned that people are cheating. And no one wants to take them seriously. No one. Democrats don't. Instead, they'll go out and have a vigil like it was a mass slaughter on January 6th. What was slaughtered on January 6th was people's confidence in the honesty of the system and the integrity of the elected officials who were given an opportunity to hit pause and appoint a bipartisan group of legislators and others, hopefully objective people who wanted to be fair. I mean, I assume they're still out there, who could look at this situation that we found ourselves in on January 6th and objectively look at the data, determine if there had been irregularity or illegality, and try to get us to a place where when the votes were certified, we were confident that they were legitimate. I don't know. I mean, I've said the whole time, I don't know what happened in 2020, and I don't think we'll ever know. I see all these headlines now, years later, that people are admitting, oh yeah, those numbers were bad, or we certified votes that we shouldn't have certified. Anybody care? I think Republicans and Democrats should care about that. It's creating a situation where people don't have confidence in their elections. So you can have all the vigils you want, and you can pretend like it was a mass slaughter of people at the Capitol, which is really gross and cynical and manipulative, to try to pin that narrative on half the country. Or you could be a decent, honest, upstanding leader and address the problem that has been presented to you, which is that we don't have a strong, robust security system about our elections, and it is very likely in certain parts of the country where there are dishonest people who will do anything to win, that we're going to find ourselves with bad numbers. And that should be unacceptable to all of us. I can lose. It hurts. I don't like it. I'm not happy about it. But it better be a fair election. And right now, I don't think people have that confidence. So why shouldn't we address that instead of standing on the steps with a bunch of candles and misleading the public? Can we get some real leaders? And you know what? On this program, Republicans better get ready for it too. I'll call you out as well. How about you take the reins while Donald Trump is president, while you have the Senate, while you have the House, and let's fix some of these problems and show what real leadership is. And if that means getting rid of the filibuster, I guarantee you the Democrats are going to do that. So you probably should do that and get this stuff fixed on a federal level, at least. I mean, Virginia, you ain't going to see them do anything to change it. Once the Democrats run the state, you'll be voting by text on your cell phone going forward, because we want to make sure that everybody gets to vote. Whether it's real or not is a secondary consideration. Why? A civil war and slavery will be their excuse. I'm telling you, we should get some responsible leaders here, and we'll see. I don't think that's what we're in for. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, I got a really interesting collection of stories and folks. Lunell Siegel from Defend Arlington will be with us in just a moment. You remember Lunell if you listened to me on WRVA. She was the leading fighter to try to prevent the reconciliation statue from being removed from Arlington National Cemetery. Remember, the Democrats said, oh, we're going to take down all these Confederate statues, but they belong in cemeteries and museums and battlefields. Remember that lie? We were not going to touch them there. Then you go to Arlington Cemetery, and within a year, the whole promise about cemeteries, battlefields, and museums, total lie, total lie. They manipulated you suburbanites who want to do the right thing and don't want anybody upset, and I'm not going to fight over this. Okay, they lied to you. They manipulated you. They tore these statues down all over the place. The ones in Richmond from Monument Avenue are still sitting in the dirt over at the wastewater treatment plant, the one that didn't work and people couldn't get fresh water this time last year. Yeah, they're still sitting there. And the statue was removed from Arlington National Cemetery. What do we do to fix that before Glenn Youngkin is out of office as governor, and certainly before Donald Trump is out of office, and make sure that we stop this rabid destruction movement, the Virginia Taliban? How do we stop that? We'll talk to Lunell. And we've got former Virginia Governor Doug Wilder with us today. All that coming up in the next hour here on the Reid Revolution. Be right back. That gives me the chance to take one 30-second break when we do that. And I'm appreciative of just the pause there. But it's not like commercial radio where you've got 6 minutes of commercials and you wonder what you're listening to. So that's a good thing. And at some point here, we'll make a little money off of this, but that's a nice little break. Lunell Siegel joins me now from defendarlington.org. And Lunell, when we did the radio stuff, you didn't have to get up and get dressed and get ready to be on TV, but now we've got you in person. Tell me where things stand with the Reconciliation Monument. There was you and I were out there the day that the horrible people who tore down all the statues in Richmond turned their attention to Arlington and ripped down that statue in the cemetery, which I just couldn't believe it was happening. But it was Joe Biden's America, so it shouldn't have surprised me. Then there was the push to move the statue to a Virginia location, that would appease everybody. Look, we're not going to melt the statue down, but we'll put it up. Now there's a deal of some kind to put it back up in Arlington. Fill us in on what's happened, and good morning.
Yeah, congratulations on the program, John, and thanks for covering this issue. Back in August, Governor Youngkin and Secretary of War Hegseth announced that the grave marker memorial, grave marker for Moses Ezekiel, and basically everybody in Section 16 would be going back to Arlington. But that was great news. But when we drilled down into it, we found there was some fine print. The reinstallation is to be accomplished under a loan agreement. and the loan isn't permanent. It's only to be displayed for 50 years. And of course, most of us won't be alive at that time to make a fuss about it. And there are some other issues like the delay in the reinstallation. The agreement only calls for it to be put back up by 3 years. And of course, it took only a week for them to take it down. So we're all asking, why does it take so long to put it back up? And then both parties have to agree if they want to keep it reinstalled after 50 years. So there's definitely some fine print that we need to fix. And Governor Youngkin is our best shot at fixing that right now. And he's got 10
And
days left to make it right.
the loan agreement is between who?
It's the Commonwealth and the U.S. Army Center for Military History.
Hmm.
It was signed by Julie Langan on behalf of the state Commonwealth and by a representative from the Center for Military History, Charles Bowery Jr.
Hmm. So, I mean, I'm
We have it
glad.
all on our website. Yeah,
Okay.
people can read it on the website, defendarlington.org. And the family has written to Governor Youngkin. He said the reason he was doing this in the first place was that it was the right thing to do for the family. But it seems like no, but everybody's got senioritis on this. He's got it's a half measure what he did, and we're now on a countdown clock. And even members of Congress have been trying to reach him, and they've gone unanswered. So we're asking listeners and viewers to help us by reaching out to
Hmm.
Governor Youngkin and his Secretary of Historic Preservation, Secretary Stephanie Talon, or anyone that they know that could get them to ask to help the family by amending the agreement before he leaves office. We've
Can
got a
he
phone number for him
unilaterally
too.
do that, or does he have to get the Army to sign
No,
in on it, sign off on it?
yeah, he would have to get the Army to agree to amend it also.
Hmm. And when is the
Governor Youngkin's phone number
reinstallation
is
currently scheduled to happen, Lou? Now,
there is no set time. They have up to 3 years. So that's a big risk. Anything could
oh, it's a
happen.
huge risk. I doubt the new governor, Abigail Spanberger, is going to turn the other way and act like this is no big deal because it's really been shocking to me, Lunel, the reaction from people who are new to Virginia. I mean, they have really been taught to hate Southerners, and I can't help but take it personally. It's not just dead Confederates. There seems to be this attitude that if you have any concern about protecting or preserving that history, which is real for people in Virginia, it's their family members. I mean, we can debate the Civil War all day and all night if that's what you want to do. I would prefer not to do that and just focus on the future. But if you want to call the question, if these leftists want to call the question and re-argue it, we can certainly do that. But the New York Times just did a story on Richmond, and the main takeaway within the first two paragraphs, I think, was Richmond is shedding its Confederate past by getting rid of these statues. And I mean, I guess I shouldn't be surprised that people in New York uh, are not at all informed about the history of the Civil War and the people who were involved in it. And they weren't rabble rousers in the street who were losers like the people we see today who are trying to cause a new civil war. These were people who had an investment in their homes, in their property, in their lives here. I mean, these are supposedly the finest families of Virginia who had to make a decision, a pretty awful decision about what to do, and it wasn't all about slavery. I'm going to not dismiss that, but there's an open hostility here, and I don't think Abigail Spanberger is going to. I mean, as the new governor, could she invalidate this? I suspect she probably could.
It would require two signatures. But John, this is the 250th year anniversary of our nation's founding, and this is a time for unity and respect for our history. And there's no better time for reinstallation and rededication of our country's reconciliation memorial than this year. The founders of the memorial was President McKinley. He was himself a U.S. Army veteran. He served for the Union, and three other presidents all supported this, and every president up to and including Obama placed wreaths at this memorial. They understood its significance to the country. So, if Youngkin wants a legacy, we're asking him to do the right thing, finish the job. He did it. He got a good start on it. He protected it from being, smelted down. But now it's time to bring it over the finish line, take a victory lap and make sure it gets back there permanently.
Yeah, let's put that picture back up of the statue so people can actually see. This isn't schlock art. It's not some poster that's been, slapped in the window and labeled as reconciliation while it's really fanning the flames of discontent. This is what we used to call fine art. And, there are plenty of things. As somebody who's traveled around the world, I've been to all the great museums of the world. Not everything I look at reflects my personal values, but we used to be able to go and have an appreciation for the artwork and try to understand what it is conveying. Whether we agreed with it, whether it reflects contemporary values or not, is really irrelevant, especially when it's in a museum or in a battlefield, or in this case, in a cemetery marking the graves of the people who, whether you like what they did or not in the Civil War, they're buried there. And so it's very odd to me that there's been this open hostility. I mean, the fact that we're praising Governor Youngkin, I appreciate what he did, but the fact that we're actually saying, oh, we're so thankful that it wasn't melted down. Do we hear ourselves? In 2026, we are actually talking about supposedly civilized people in the United States of America. Freedom of expression, freedom of thought, intellectual pursuits, where we have a diversity of opinion, and we're actually talking about whether people are going to melt statues down. And they're doing it, and they're very proud of themselves that they're destroying artwork, not just taking it, destroying it. I hope the governor will step in, and I will tell you, Lunel, everybody's talked about how this is such a moderate group that has just won in the modern Democrat Party, led by Abigail Spanberg. It's not a moderate group, and we better watch, because I think there's another round of the Virginia Taliban coming that's going to say, here's our next list of things that we want removed from the public square and perhaps destroyed. I hope I'm wrong. And I'm looking for Abigail Spanberger to prove me wrong. Maybe she will, and if she does, I will say nice things about that. But this would be something that the governor could do.
We asked all the candidates to take a position on this, and we did not hear back from her. So we do believe it's really important for Governor Youngkin to finish his job before he leaves office, and stop the senioritis and just amend the agreement and get on with it. And we're asking people to call him at 804-786-2211 or email him. That information is on our website, defendarlington.org, and let your voice be heard. This is America's 250th anniversary. It's time to accept our past and understand where we are today, and honor these veterans, and not fall prey to the cultural revolution that's been taking over our country and destroying our history and our art for the last few years.
Well, that's one of the good things about Donald Trump being president, is that I think you will have a celebration of America rather than a lamentation of America, which is what we would have gotten if we had Kamala Harris or Joe Biden in office. And I'm worried about how Virginia will commemorate 2026 and this 250th anniversary. Let me just ask you one of the tough questions. I don't think it's tough, but just for the people who are listening who don't agree with you and me. When someone says, why are there statues of quote unquote traitors up in modern America to people who wanted to leave the Union? They say destroy the Union, but leave the Union. What is your response to that? I know you've answered this before and you've studied the issue, so tell me what the answer is to that.
Well, to me, the original sources are the people who put the memorial up in the first place. Again, President William McKinley was a United States veteran. He was from, I believe, Ohio. He fought for the North. It was his idea to put this up. And when it was dedicated and at all the events, the Union veterans themselves, the Grand Army of the Republic was at these ceremonies. They supported it. This would not be there but for the decision by the Union veterans themselves, and for them, for presentists to go throw out what was done by the people who lived through it is a rejection of actual history, and it's a rewriting history.
Well, in this particular case, I think that's a very potent argument. And I think everybody should pause. I certainly do. You know me. I mean, I've known you for almost 5 or 6, 7 years now. I got strong opinions about everything, but and I've run for public office now. I'm not trying to stomp on everybody else just because I've got strong opinions, especially when it's looking backwards in the rearview mirror. I'm looking forward about what society we're going to live in. And I don't think that doing the destruction dance is going to be helpful to anybody. In fact, I think it sets the stage for another civil war. It's one of the many things I would list that indicates that we're not in a healthy place going forward. I'm gonna celebrate the 250, and I'm gonna be excited to be an American. I am, but I will tell you, I think this is an indication of an unhealthy society when you start tearing things down. Lunell Siegel, it's defendarlington.org, and I don't know, I hope Governor Youngkin will hear this and take some action. And then you're going to have to turn up the pressure, turn up the heat on the new governor, Abigail Spanberger, and her team, so that they don't take their electoral win as a license to do a lot of bad things going forward just because it makes them feel good. Lunell, thanks for being with us. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Lunell Siegel, it's defendarlington.org. You should check it out. And this is an issue that is, in the grand scheme of things, is it going to change the world? No. But I think we've got to stop this mindset that says, I don't like something, so I destroy it. I don't like something, so I get together and we vote. Well, in the case of Richmond, we didn't even vote, did we? That would have been better had everybody actually voted to take down the statues in Richmond. Then that would have made sense. But instead, I'll tell you what happened, and then I got to go. But I'll tell you what happened. It was the elites in Richmond, the Democrat elites, white and black, who decided that this had to go. And to hell with everybody else was the attitude. I mean, Mike Jones, who just won Ghazala Hashmi's seat in the Senate. God, the guy's now going to be a state senator. He said on the radio directly to me, those statues are coming down one way or another. I think that's the exact quote. One way or another, those statues are coming down. I mean, the arrogance doesn't surprise me, but the arrogance from these people. And if you think they're going to temper their attitude in the coming 4 years, I think you're going to be really disappointed. If you think they're going to go, wonder what the Republican, wonder what the conservative, wonder what the Christians think, wonder what the people in Southwest Virginia think, wonder what the people in the this is the mindset of political elites who win. They'll run right over you. I don't have that mindset. I'm trying to hold on to the mindset of let's come up with a solution to things that everybody can get on board with. It's hard to do in the modern era. All right, we'll be right back. Let me take a quick break. And former Virginia Governor Doug Wilder is with us. That's next on the Reid Revolution, seconds away. Okay, Dan, tell me what the deal is. I'm looking for this.
I don't know what's going on with this this clip of ours. Let's see. I think I can do it now. So let's go to the Governor Wild interview now. Okay.
Okay.
Let's see here. Here we go. Hold on just a second as I try to get this up here. Apologize, folks. Let's see here. Hold on. Almost there. I apologize.
You know, for a podcast, this is tolerable. Did you see
right.
the poor guy on CBS the other day? I mean, that guy, that's national network, and he takes over as the main anchor, and it's all kinds of technical problems. I mean, and I'm surprised the union people would let that happen. That is that. I mean, I felt bad for him having been a news anchor. It's kind of a tough situation to be in when people either sabotage you or can't push the right buttons. I'm not beating up on you, but
that's right.
All right. So what's the story?
We have it now. We're ready to go.
Okay, let's do it.
All right, let's do it.
Well, that's frustrating. What do you think the deal is, Dan?
I'm not quite sure. I had everything sharing. Obviously, we're dealing with new technology here to some extent, but yeah, I was certainly hearing it on my end. I don't know why it wasn't coming through on everybody else's.
I figured you must be hearing it because I was out here freaking out like, what the hell? But okay.
Yeah, no, I was. Yeah, I was hearing it just fine, which is weird. I don't know why it wasn't going through otherwise.
Okay. Well, may I tell you this?
Yeah.
This is, and I'm just saying this to the audience.
Yeah.
Dan has self-trained on this equipment, and he's added the television element in addition to what he used to do at the radio station. And I don't know, if people who've never worked in TV, it complicates everything. When you just push the button and you play the tape, and it's just going out over the air, it's cool. But you add the television thing, and you have to sync up the audio. It's a mess. So I'm sorry that didn't work, and I'm frustrated because Governor Wilder took time to be with us. Let's see if we can fix that and get that back. I'm not mad at you because this is the first time we've tried it, Dan.
Yeah,
and it's a whole new operation.
Whole new, absolutely.
What's interesting to me is at the radio station, that would be the moment that you would hit the alarm button.
Right.
And
yeah, we'd be hearing from our bosses. Why is
and the
why is
little
nothing going out over
guy,
the air?
the little guy upstairs who you never saw unless there was a technical crisis would come running in with his toolkit and would either fix the software or would fix the hardware. So sorry about that. We'll see if Dan can fix it. If we can't fix it for this program, we will.
We can
certainly
play
fix
it later in
tomorrow.
the week.
And yeah, sorry about that. All right. Let me continue though with something that I think is probably pretty important. And yeah, we're not in New York, and I have a little bit of, I don't want this show to become a New York centric program. God knows they've got enough attention. And as a Richmonder, I've always kind of had a little chip on my shoulder about the world revolving around New York. My best friend here in Richmond was from Long Island, so I had to keep my mouth shut because he bought into the whole hype that the world revolves around New York. I can tell you it doesn't, unless it's finance. But you got to pay attention to what's happening in New York with this new communist mayor. And I'm going to say he's a communist because that's the truth. Everybody's trying. When I brought that up the other day, I got a bunch of emails from people like, you don't even know what you're talking about. Listen, don't lecture me on the difference between socialism and communism. I'm not interested in your lecture. When you're off shift at Wendy's, I don't need your email telling me that you understand the difference between socialism and communism. Thank you very much. No disrespect intended, but really, come on. I'm not interested in your hyper analysis from MSNBC on that. You got a communist now who is the mayor of New York. We are hearing it's so interesting how this stuff gets covered post-election, right? The guy gets elected, and now we're finding out that his tenant director, we played that clip for you yesterday, and then last night it was all over the news from the dingbat young woman. I mean, this delusional screwball who doesn't know. I mean, I'd be interested to know whether the apartment she lives in is her parents' apartment or whether she pays for it or not. Because the way she was speaking was so doltish and stupid. It's remarkable to me that she would be put in a position. I wouldn't hire her to run a lemonade stand, much less advocate on behalf of the people of New York to make sure they get a fair shake when it comes to tenant issues, which is an issue in New York. I'm not diminishing the issue. I'm just, if you saw her yesterday, she gives you no confidence that she has any brain power at all. She is another one of the brainwashed commies that's going to be put throughout the bureaucracy of New York, and they're going to systematically make bad decisions that are going to make the prices rise and make things worse for the people of New York City. So here's another example of the new mayor talking about police. Where was everybody during the election covering this stuff? And you'd probably hear this same sentiment from someone like Ghazala Hashmi if anybody actually interviewed her. And if they put the pressure on her to answer questions that were real questions rather than softballs. But, no one in Virginia really wants to actually hold anybody accountable. Okay. We'll see what we get. I guess we'll live through that one way or another with the Three Stooges that are going to the Capitol next week. But here's Mamdani and his hot take on police.
For anyone to care about these issues, we have to make them hyperlocal. We have to make clear that when the boot of the NYPD is on your neck, it's been laced by the IDF.
You see? I mean, that is an absurd assertion. And it shows that he's, an anti-Semite. Everything, I can't explain to you, if you're a normal person and you've lived in the United States and you've, really, if you're just a Christian person who hasn't paid close attention or engaged with this conflict, it is almost impossible for me to explain to you how dominating the
Muslim-Jewish conflict is for a lot of people around the world, certainly in the Middle East, where I lived. So before you send me an email saying I don't know what I'm talking about, stick it. I'm not interested in that. You go spend a couple of years over there, and then we can have the conversation. Don't just read a book. Go spend a couple of years with people who are very, very nice, very, very thoughtful, very, very intelligent. In fact, very, very kind people in many cases. And you bring up Israel, and boy, it changes fast. I have to admit, as the person I'm describing, the Christian from Virginia, who was always kind of aware of the conflict, but not, I had no personal stake in it, no connection to it until I went to the Middle East myself and actually spent night after night after night in the region and met people and did business with people. I didn't understand how visceral the reaction is. And now you've got this guy. He was not mayor and he was not a candidate, as I understand it, when he made this comment. So this is going into the archives, but this is revealing about his mindset. And it wasn't that long ago. I mean, the guy's only been in the United States how long? Only been a citizen how long? And what, now he's running New York? Give me a break. I mean, why are we making that mistake? Why would anybody make that mistake? Would you hire the junior manager at Pepsi company to run Coca-Cola? I mean, not even like swap CEOs. That would be stupid. But bringing in some junior manager who doesn't have a clue what's going on. I mean, not even a manager in this case. Not even a manager. Just the guy who sold the soda pop at the concession stand is now the CEO of the opposing brand, the Coca-Cola. This is crazy. This guy is obsessed, and he hates the Jews. Now he's going to lie to you and act like he doesn't have a problem with Jews, but he does. I hate that. I mean, I'm not one of these people who's reveling in that, but I'm also a realist. One of the things about this program, back to my TV days and the radio days, I'm not interested in perpetuating the lie that's out there. The lie is that we all get along, everybody gets along. They're just some fringe issues. That's just not true. And every culture is not the same. And there is a real hostility to the Jews. So, if you were voting for a leftist Democrat who constantly brings up issues in the Middle East, and you live in the United States and the politician is in the United States, you're making a tremendous mistake, because they are going to take that conflict overseas and they're going to put it right in your lap here. It was one of the things that really bothered me and continues to bother me about Ghazala Hashmi. I mean, the woman who's in the street with the bullhorn protesting wants you to put her in charge of making reasonable decisions, thoughtful decisions, broker deals between people who disagree, and she's standing in the back of a pickup truck with the American flag upside down, screaming into a bullhorn, and she goes and marches with the Hamas Palestinian crowd. Come on. I'm just, if I was a Jew in Virginia, I would be concerned about that. I'm not sure that I would pack my stuff up and leave yet, but I would be concerned about that. I think we got a problem on our hands, and you're going to be the first one in the line to have to deal with it. Here's Mamdani yesterday talking about the World Cup, which is coming to North America. And this is also revealing of this communist mindset. Listen to that. I think you'll initially go, oh, well, it makes a point. But then the real point is that he's going to stomp all over people. Listen to this.
I had a New Yorker the other day come up to me and ask me if there was any way I could help him get World Cup tickets, because he was saying that the cost that he saw for a game was $600, right? This is increasingly out of reach. We have made what used to be a working class game into a luxury experience, and we want to ensure that there are more experiences available to each and every New Yorker.
I mean, what a fool. What a total fool. I will tell you, World Cup matches are not the same as the local match down the street. It's not the Richmond Kickers or Strikers or whatever they're called now. I like them, so I'm not trying to denigrate them at all. But what are you talking about? A $600 ticket is actually cheap
for one of the premier games of any kind, whether it's the NBA, the NFL. I mean, I'm not going to dissect what's happening on the field, but I will tell you, if you want to go to one of these games, there's a limited number of seats, and a lot of people want to go. And the only way you can decide who gets into that stadium, other than having a lottery, the government coming in and setting the price and having a lottery, maybe that's what he's proposing. That's foolish. That's stupid. Is for it to work its way out based on who can pay. And that's going to mean, quite frankly, somebody like me can't afford it. You think I'm paying $600 for a ticket to the World Cup? I'm not. I don't care that much. And even if I did care, even if it was my favorite sport in the world and it was an event I really wanted to go to, like the Olympics in Paris. Remember, I took the radio program to Paris for the opening ceremonies.
Yep.
I bought a ticket months in advance for the opening ceremonies of the Olympics in Paris. Had no idea it was going to be the crazy wacko show that it was, but I was really excited about it. Then I thought, well, I'm going to be in Paris. I'm going to do the show. Maybe I'll take a day off and I'll actually go to some of the events. I looked at the ticket price. I was like, hell no, I'm not going to pay this. I don't want to see, I don't know, one of the second tier sports in the Summer Olympics and pay $300 a ticket. I'm just not interested in that. So Mamdani is pointing out a reality in a city with 9 million people, and the biggest event in the world happening in your backyard, and he's concerned. Here's the news for you, Mr. Mayor. Why don't you focus on the facilities? Why don't you focus on paving the roads? Why don't you focus on where the money is going so that there's no scams and there's no cheating? Why don't you focus on making sure that during the World Cup, this is the press conference he should have had, tell people that when they come to the United States for the World Cup, they're not going to be set on fire while they're sitting on the subway, that their child is not going to get kidnapped, that their wife is not going to be stabbed in the neck, that you're not going to have crazed lunatics who are high on some sort of drugs running up and down the platforms of the subway system, harassing people who are there to spend $600 that I'm sure you will tax to go to the World Cup. That's the leadership people need from elected officials, not someone who's going to whine and complain and try to micromanage ticket prices for an event that everybody wants to go to. And let's be clear about that. That's what got us into this mess in Richmond. To bring it back home to everybody who's watching here in Richmond. This is also the 1-year anniversary of the water crisis in Richmond. Remember that? The state capital of Virginia and their porta toilets in front of the governor's mansion, porta toilets in front of the Capitol. The legislature had to leave Richmond because there was no potable water. The hospitals couldn't perform surgeries because they had no water. The hotels were bringing in water by the truckload so they could flush the toilets in a major city in the United States that happens to be the state capital of Virginia. And why did that happen? Because Democrats run the damn place. And they're more worried about crazy stuff like this, ticket prices and social issues, and they're worried about dead Confederate generals and whether or not we're going to keep statues up that everybody from around the world, one of the few things that anybody would come here to actually see. We want to take those down, focused on everything but the actual management of a municipality. That's why we wound up in the situation we did here in Richmond. And, Dr. Avula, who is the new mayor, not LeVar Stoney. Where did he move, by the way? He's back in town, from what I'm told, and I have heard that he is not living in the city. Is that right? The city that he was mayor of? I don't know. We'll have to.
Yeah, I think I've heard that too, but I'm not quite sure what neighborhood he's in. And,
well, I don't want to put the neighborhood on because unlike the Democrats, I'm not interested in anybody harassing him, whether he was an elected official or not. I don't think anybody should be harassing private citizens or elected officials. Leave him alone. But if he's being a hypocrite, or if there's a certain discordance about being the mayor of a city for 8 years and then choosing not to live in the city that you were mayor of. I think that should be pointed out. So we'll check on that. But that's why we wound up in the mess that we're in Richmond, is because Democrats always focus on the wrong thing. They always defend the wrong people. They always defend the bad guy. They always want to raise taxes, but then they take the tax money and they use it on something frivolous instead of actually getting the work done that the citizens count on. And occasionally it pops up and slaps you right across the face, like what happened with the water crisis. All right, now I want to play the last Mamdani clip. Dan, if you can run that.
Sure can. Let's see here.
Will the policy of your administration be to reject candidates who are actually hired to your administration when they express anti-Semitic positions or have anti-Semitic statements in the past? Are you going to automatically reject them from your administration? And were any of these statements or these people that I identified or that were identified in the report, were these already flagged or identified by your transition team?
So I have always spoken out against anti-Semitism and hatred in any form, and have made it clear that the commitment I have made to protect New Yorkers, to protect Jewish New Yorkers, is one that I will uphold as the next mayor of the city. And we must distinguish between anti-Semitism and criticism of the Israeli government. The ADL's report oftentimes ignores this distinction, and in doing so it draws attention away from the very real crisis of anti-Semitism we see not only just in our city but in the country at large. And this is a team we are speaking of more than 400 New Yorkers that we have assembled to advise on the transition. These are committees, 17 of which that range from worker justice to the importance of the arts. And we will continue to build an administration of appointees that reflect not only our commitments but also the fulfillment of our affordability agenda.
But did any of those examples I read, or in the report, if your team looked at it, did any of those go too far to where you said, okay, this is kind of anti-Semitic?
I think there's no tolerance for anti-Semitism, and also when we're thinking about critiques of Zionism and different forms of political expression, as much of what this report focuses on, there's a wide variety of political opinion, even within our own 400-plus transition committee, on the Israeli government and its conduct.
Okay. I mean, I think it's clear what the guy's saying. He doesn't like the question. Look, this guy hates the Jews, and he's going to lie right to your face and say, "Oh, no, I don't dislike the Jews. I have no problem with the Jews." He hates the Jews, and he is not going to protect you. He's already removed, there's this definition of anti-Semitism, which, I'm kind of shocked that we have to debate this, but okay, defining things is important. He's removed that definition from the website. This is the same thing Ghazala Hashmi, I hate to keep bringing her up, God, but she walked out of her job in the state Senate because she didn't want to deal with this issue. I mean, and Americans are so foolish, and I feel bad about saying this. They don't understand how ingrained this hostility is, and we're pretending like it's not true. And this guy is a good tap dancer. I mean, he didn't seem flustered there. The reporter had obviously brought up specific quotations. Like if I were to ever be nominated for something that had to be approved by the United States Senate, I have no doubt that they would go through every broadcast I've ever done and try to find some quote that maybe's in context, maybe out of context, that they would try to hammer me on, and I would have to answer that. It might even be the kind of thing where they're like, yeah, it's not even worth putting you up for a nomination because people would freak out. But that's only to Republicans. Democrats are going to get away with this. I applaud the reporter for at least asking him the question, but they didn't go far enough, because it's going to be one of those asked and answered things, and he's going to skate on by without actually saying, there are certain things that are going to cross a line. And if you're going to be in the administration of a major city, you need to, no matter who walks up to you at the desk, at the rostrum, in a public park,
you need to deal with some semblance of respect, even if you disagree with them. And I don't think that's what you're going to see. I think the experience for Jewish citizens in New York, sadly, is about to change a lot. And don't take my word for it. Look, there was a story in the Times-Dispatch yesterday about hate crimes in Virginia jumping by, 25%, and most of that being hate crimes directed towards Jews. Now, what is hate crime? I mean, we could, I think that's worthy of a conversation. Is it somebody calls you a nasty name? I get that every single day. And that was long before I was a candidate, long before I was in the media. Just, rude, nasty people who decide that it's okay to call you the F word or, just be ugly. And that's unpleasant. I don't like it. I don't know what I'm supposed to do about it except punch people in the face all the time. Then I go to jail, so I'm not going to do that. But there's a problem here. Does anybody want to deal with it? Or are we just going to let this guy skate? You say you don't like nastiness directed towards citizens. You say you want everybody to be able to worship freely, to be themselves, to not have to look over the shoulder. But then you elect people who have already demonstrated that they really do have an axe to grind with entire segments of the population. I mean, you know how many people are mad at me about the trans issue? Because as a gay guy, I'm actually calling out that I think the trans issue is not a legitimate issue. I think it's a mental health issue, and I don't know why we're indulging this. They're furious with me. You would think that I have suddenly metamorphosized into some sort of horrible person, a terrible bigot, for actually telling the truth about the issue and not advocating harm to anybody. But that's a constant refrain that I've dealt with for the last year, especially. And yet you're going to give a pass to people who have openly demonstrated an anti-Semitic mindset, not just hostility towards Israel and the conflict in the Middle East, which I repeat should not become a conflict that we're dealing with here in the United States, but hostility towards Jewish people. Give me a break. Hey, Democrats, grow up, stop lying, and get your house in order here. But they don't. And the voters, I've got to help you pull focus on this, because this is a big mistake for all of us going forward if you keep empowering this type of person in New York and in Virginia. It's a problem.
Yep.
What did
John,
you
I do have an update. So I think that we've figured out it's probably too late for today. In fact, it's definitely too late today based on our schedules, John. But we have something to deal with after the show here. But I think that I've figured out the problem. I apologize to you. I apologize, listeners, for the technical difficulties. But we should be able.
We're figuring it out.
We are, but we should be able to run the interview either tomorrow or Friday, and it was a good interview. So I'm excited to be able to share that with everybody.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that. I'm sorry that it happened.
Yeah.
But you know what? We will persevere.
No, thanks.
Forward.
Well, thanks for being the professional that you are, and just picking up right, like not skipping a beat. So yeah,
this stuff happens.
It does.
You do television for 10 years, for 12 hours a day live, and stuff happens. So it's okay. All right. Well, that's going to wrap it. It's 11:09. So I did better today, right? Trying to keep it to 1 hour. Right?
Yeah.
11:09 instead of 11:14 the first day and 11:30 the second day. Tomorrow we'll try to play that interview with former Governor Wilder. I think it's interesting. He takes me to task, and I don't want to reveal that I'd already talked to him, but he kind of takes me to task in the interview. So I was a little uncomfortable, to be honest with you, at points. That'll be worth checking out. And we got a lot of other great guests coming up for the rest of the week. So on behalf of producer Dan, I'm John Reid. We'll see you tomorrow morning on the Reid Revolution.